Yeah, I'm Nick Shoulders. I'm an illustrator, yodeler, and citizen of Arkansas. And I've been proud to draw weird dinosaurs for Fossil Cove for many a year now. I guess that would have been 2012 or 13, somewhere in there. But I don't think Fossil Cove had been around for more than a year, not too long. Or maybe I approached him and said, like, I draw dinosaurs. Can you help me out? But I have been someone who's been known to talk about or draw a dinosaur 3, and I think that I felt compelled to reach out to somebody who's making something that was paleontology related, because I have been drawing these things voluntarily for most of my life, so I figured maybe it was time to try and get paid for it. My parents probably noticed around 5 or 6 I was drawing a lot of like Godzilla's blowing up buildings and towns, and drawing a lot of goblins and weird lizards and snakes and stuff, but yeah, I don't remember a time before drawing creepy cartoons. I really don't. Basically, any interest of mine, I've got like an archaeologist relationship with. I with music and with art and anything, I definitely look for the continuity and the themes and the sort of the older, more contextualized way of looking at any art form. And drawing was one of them. And I definitely got sort of crossed my wires when I was looking at too many dinosaur books as a kid, and I just trace them constantly. I think it's the same reason I'm into weather or I'm into trains. It's just something bigger and scarier than you that makes a lot of noise. And I was drawn to those things when I was young. And also I think something to do with observable systems. The idea of a bone getting trapped underground for millions of years and becoming a rock and then getting dug out by some bored dude was just like the coolest idea in the world. So I used to go around in Ouachita road cuts with screwdrivers and hammers, and I'd knock on the side of things and try to pull out fossils that weren't there, and I'd mess around in the shale and gravel bars up here and look for fossils. But I've just always had my eyes on the ground. I've always loved the past, and I've loved context and history, and I don't think I ever had any choice. I think I was always going to get drawn to old weird things, and whether it's old weird country music or fossils or what have you, I got to know the whole thing. I see some of the same lines that I draw in bluff sides in the Ozarks. I see them in the way that creeks run. You know, the sort of manic undulation in those lines is also in the landscape here. It's embedded in the imagery that we see every day here. And I think that as a kid, I was just a sponge for all of those shapes and those color relationships, and they've never gone away. I still see turquoise Ozark Creek water and reindeer moss, and all of those greens and weird pastel shades are still embedded in my brain. For all the weird luck that it took for music to work out, I thought I was going to be a professional artist for most of my life, and I went to school for it even though I dropped out, and I kind of moved back to Arkansas with a lot of new skills and a lot of hope, but not necessarily knowing whether there was going to be people here willing to pay me for my weird designs and my strange things that I drew. But over time, between Fossil Cove and the people that have been cool enough to let me draw on their buildings, I've gotten to really decorate Fayetteville in a way that I never dreamed I could have when I was just getting in trouble for drawing in the margins of my notes in high school, or like drawn on the walls of the bathroom, whatever terrible stuff I was doing. Art for me has always been kind of an impulse. It's something I don't necessarily control or have a say in when and how it happens, at least well. But I think that the fact that I was able to marry the music and these weird illustrations into sort of the same bizarro world was just a stroke of luck, an absolute stroke of luck. I briefly tried to go to school in Denver at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, and Denver has more people in it than the whole state of Arkansas, so I found myself very quickly intimidated and not having much fun out there. And I came back and just couldn't quite bring myself to finish school, and I liked playing in punk bands more and drawing weird monsters, so I took a dive and kind of fell out of the real world, and this is the end result, I was in New Orleans for almost 3 years, and I came back the week that lockdowns happened. So Mardi Gras happened in New Orleans, and we started hearing about friends getting sick, and it started to get a little scary. And we also figured that being a burden on the New Orleans metro, which has already experienced so much, was not something I was interested in doing. So I couldn't take a hospital bed from somebody if something were to happen that way. And I figured that the best possible course of action was to wait out at least the worst of the pandemic in Arkansas. And Because as soon as I got back, I was just like, these woods are calling, baby. This feels right. I have a lot of things that kept me sane down there, and playing music 5 times a week or whatever I got to do was an amazing life. But turns out what keeps me sane is the open spaces of the Ozarks, and that's was never news to me. I think I knew that all along, but just being back, and especially during things that were so stressful, really kind of put things in perspective. And yeah, as far as I know, that couldn't have happened at a better time. I'm stoked on the way things are going. We got a record label in the works. Garhole Records is happening, which is crazy. So I really think I could have waited it out in New Orleans, but there's nowhere I'd rather be than in the woods around here if things are sketchy. It feels right.
You talk a little bit about your music. When did you start playing music, and how does that incorporate into your drawings and paintings and vice versa?
Well, as cool as my folks were about trying to support my aptitudes as an artist growing up, they put me in art classes and gave me to the right people, basically. But they didn't really quite know what to do with my music aptitude, and I don't think I did either. So I was learning to play my teeth and do bird call whistles and yodel when I was a kid, but had no guitar and nobody to tell me that I should be doing that or should pursue it. So music had kind of been sort of an undercurrent, and I had been pouring a lot of my energy and time into art. So in early high school, junior high, I was in bands playing drums for people, and I wasn't like an aspiring singer-songwriter. I never wanted to be like a country singer in high school that wrote songs necessarily. I just whistled and played harmonica and also played drums for hardcore bands. And so it was kind of a mixed bag where I was in this DIY culture playing music, but I was supposed to be an artist, and I thought of myself as an artist and an illustrator. But somewhere about 5 or 6 years ago, the music started kind of picking up, and I started really kind of delving back into the stuff my grandparents had played and sang, and really sort of re-embraced the roots of country music and American folk music that is present in my family, and I was lucky enough to get exposed to when I was young. And I really re-encapsulated that and ran with it. And so I've had this unexpected career in country music with this pedigree in art that I get to sort of combine every once in a while. But, I think that outside artists and folk artists and people who are attached to the land that they love and have a place sort of outside of mainstream America, that's not new. I'm not an anomaly. I can name people from around here who are outsider artists that will never get any sort of recognition or understanding on a broader level, but people who are close to them and saw their work adored it. And that's really all I ever wanted to do, is just make stuff that I gave a shit about and that people wanted to see. I think in a place like Arkansas, where we lack so many other amenities and connections, that history is a lot of all we have. And I think a lot of people will really dive into history and really learn history and appreciate the context of their upbringing and regional identity in ways you don't get other places, because we honestly don't have a choice. And I think that plays into my world in a very distinct way, but I also never felt particularly welcome or accepted by that history and by the dominant culture of what we know and love as Arkansas. So in attaching myself to the past and trying to understand the past, I also think that it's really valuable to ask what's worth keeping. And I think the only reason that we know where we're going or have an idea of what we want out of our future as a society is because we are familiar with our past and we look to our past for understanding. And when we lose that, when we lose that appreciation, we don't actually have a way to create a good future. So I'm not interested in rewriting the past or making a better version of it, because it's a dark place. But I think in understanding that, you can create your own future, and that's way more important than feeling good about what has happened, is more or less being equipped to create something of your own. The future is bright, even though it doesn't always feel that way, but I've got a new album coming out. I've got European tours in the fall possibly happening. I've got all sorts of things I couldn't have expected at the beginning of this pandemic, because really before COVID, my music stuff was confined to New Orleans honky tonks and tours I was booking myself and living out of a van. So to have the prospect of shows back and to have things on the books that are a little fancier than I'm used to, that's a crazy good feeling. So I really have nothing but optimism for the way things are going on a personal level, because like I said, I just have been kind of cruising along playing shows. So to have music work and to have things planned It's a nice change. Well, we just got this last record finished, so it's going to be out on April 20th. And
what's it called?
Home on the Rage.
Oh, yeah.